And I'm Nate.
So we gotta talk about what's going on in Israel, because this is a bit too much right now, and
Getting off the hook.
I definitely don't want to talk about it in the workplace.
Yeah, it can get you ostracized very quickly.
Yeah,
And even in trouble these days, you say the wrong thing, you could get someone trying to get you fired or something.
Yeah. On top of that, I don't want to guess who's what race and what's going on. Just speaking up and saying like, "Hey guys, this is weird, huh?" And then have someone just go right to 11, start freaking out.
Oh yeah,
what'd you do? I just wanted to talk about world events. This is very concerning. I weep for both sides.
Yeah, but there's so many people, you don't know. For the most part, someone's like completely on one side or completely on the other.
Yeah.
And interestingly, I really find, even myself, but like most people just have no idea what's going on really, like they've got like a really like, a small chunk of the whole story, and they're trying to put together this whole giant puzzle, right? That's got so many different pieces to it.
I'm one of those people.
Yeah, exactly. Who isn't?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm ignorant. I'm going to say that right now, and quite without pride. I'm humbly ignorant to that situation. I am trying to catch up. It is difficult. It's very like, who did what, when, what year? Like, you need a whole class just to work out the past 20 years.
Oh, yeah.
Just the 20 years of what Israel, like, they've had a hell of a story the past little bit.
And if you really think about it, like, okay, just analyzing the last, say, 20 years or whatever, or even the last, 60 years since World War II, right? That's really where it began.
Yeah.
Then, just imagine when you're reading history and you're all these thousands of years of like history that they have, and we just brush over it like, oh, they had this battle and fought these people, and then these people came through and then they battled these people, and we're talking about it in terms of hundreds of years basically, for their couple thousand years of history. And then once we get to these last 50 years, it's like so condensed because we're living it, and it's like we can talk about every year as like, oh wow, remember last year when this attack happened, or this event happened or whatever.
Yeah.
But just imagine what that could have been like 2,000 years ago, when they had these tribes that were just fucking pissed at each other, trying to literally take over the land, and no one's helping them. Right? Like if they don't make a fucking a friend with a neighborly tribe or something, then they're screwed. No one's gonna know about it, right? There's no internet or TV or fucking radio or whatever.
Yeah.
So no one outside of that region knew what was going on until they heard about it from merchant travelers, right? Basically, that was the news of the ancient day, was the merchant. Whoever's traveling on by boat, right? That's all the port cities were where people would go to the taverns and the docks, and they would get the news of the world from that. Word of mouth, it's kind of weird to think about that way.
Yeah, all like the little latchkey kids like hang around the dock.
Extra.
What happened, mister? Yeah. Oh, and then he talked about mermaids, and that's probably where the story of Pinocchio came from.
Yeah.
All that shit. That's cool, man. Like that, like the stories had some fruit to it.
Mm.
And you're bringing up a really beautiful point of you don't know what it's like until you walk a mile in their shoes. Like if you were that, like I'm just going to pick on the PM because he's out forefront in the news. So to me, to my ignorant Canadian brain, he's the face of Jerusalem to me.
Yeah.
I don't know much else. So he's pretty old just by gray hair. So the trip that he's been on, the A to B, we don't know that. Everything right now might make like 100% sense to him. Where he's looking at himself in the mirror going, you know what, Benjamin? Fuck yeah.
Yeah, well, it does make 100% sense to him, because on their end of things, I mean, they as a country are trying to do something based on religion, but they're trying to portray it to the world that it's based on necessity for safety. You know what I mean?
Well, instead of me just speaking, can I play for you what he?
Yes.
This is him speaking to the Iranian people. Okay, I got to pause it right there. That's a hell of a threat.
Yeah, that's definitely a big threat.
So, like, already, like, out of the gate, the way he's talking, like, I'm already hooked.
Right.
You know? Well, really well spoken. Hey, I'm addressing you people. He's, like, just balls in his voice, you know? And then he's got this heavy threat. All right. And now I gotta polish it off, because, like, I had to pause and, like, that sounds like a threat, right? Like, there's nowhere we can't reach. You know that guy? We killed him. You know that guy? We killed him. He gave 2 names of prominent people.
Yeah.
It's like, we did that. That was me.
Might as well be those Trudeau stickers.
Yeah.
I did that.
There's nowhere we can't reach. You can't hide fucking anywhere. Oh,
Yeah, she's
geez.
basically talking about those pager attacks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's balls, man. All right. I gotta let him finish his speech. Okay. Well, it was fast forwarding. I don't know why. It's just sensing my hand at a distance, but still, that was a hell of a speech.
Yeah. And you notice that he's like the language that he's doing it, right?
I know.
Like the official language of Israel is Hebrew,
Right.
right? So who's he speaking English to make sure that English people understand it? You know what I mean? Like he's making all those speeches are for us.
Right.
Yeah. Whenever they do official speeches, he's speaking Hebrew. And when they do, those are the speeches they don't translate over here. And it says, God is with us. And it says, God will destroy them. And then it says things like, we must destroy, Amalek. That's what he call he's named, right?
Yeah.
That's a biblical name. But if you look that up, what that means, that's basically anyone who's not Jewish. So they're that certain enemy, but we are that enemy as well.
I know. Well, yes, no, maybe. So, okay, there was 2 ways I'm going to take this. And first off, I'm gonna, off the top, when it started fast forwarding and I paused in the middle, I apologize to that PM. I should have given him his time to speak. Anyways, 2 ways that can go is the way I hope. And the way I hope it goes is the way the Mongolian Empire kind of did things. The Mongolian Empire was brutal. Like we've spoken about them before. Just brutal in their practices. But when they did take over, everyone was allowed to keep their religion and their culture. None of that mattered. Just the money. You give your money here. We're going to set this up. You're going to do what I say, and you could live. And that happened mostly after they came through their town and raped and killed everybody. It's a really weird part of history where you're just like, bro, you shouldn't have done that. Yeah, we're Mongols. We do that kind of thing. But at the same time, you built the Silk Road.
Yeah.
Without the Silk Road, we wouldn't be where we are today.
Yeah. And then not only that, but I mean, if you look at everything they did was, everything that's been done up until that, like they were just repeating history, basically. Everyone since the beginning of time has done the same thing, right? You live in a tribe of people, you have a city or whatever, and then for whatever reason, people revolt for some reason, whether they're forced into a war because the rich guy who owns that city is telling you have to, or because you guys get taken over and, you're enslaved. And then eventually it's too much and you say, fuck this. And then everyone rises up.
Yeah.
Well,
if he's truthful. if he's truthful in what he's saying, if the English words he said is the plan that's gonna play out. No, I did see, and forgive me for not having the citation. There was like a recent year in recent memory where it was 3 countries that all conspired against Israel. It was like Egypt, Iran, and like even
Probably
a couple,
Iraq.
probably
Iraq.
Iraq, Iran, one of those. They all went together to fuck them up, but Israel turned the tide and like held their own, and then
Of America.
probably, and then negotiated peace talks and held them at peacetime.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm walking a mile in this guy's shoes, and then he's like, you know what, enough's enough. We're gonna go in and like the Mongols. We're gonna brutally smack everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just totally show them who's boss. Who's boss here? And then they spread their imperialism, their style, all up and down the Arab nation, all around that sea. And they set up the infrastructure like the Mongols did. And then we have Silk Road 2.0. That's a beautiful future. I can get behind that if there's no brutal takeover.
Mm-hmm.
All citizens, like, and that's now that's really wishful thinking.
Yeah, because there's no way around that, right? And that's the point they want to get to, is that, like, oh, we're trying to make peace here, and it's going to take breaking a few eggs, but we'll get there eventually. Even if there's not one stone left unturned, we'll make sure there's peace.
But if we can do better, we should.
Right, and I think that's the main message behind 90% of the people, I think, that are protesting against Israel, is that really they're just protesting against the death and the war. They're not really against Israel or hate the fact that it's, Jews doing this or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's not an anti-Semitic thing so much as it is an anti-human thing, they don't want death, or an anti-death thing, like.
Or like, okay, so let's just like put an age limit.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that at the very least.
That's what the Geneva Convention is.
I know that's what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
But even like Vietnam, they would have children run up with grenades and give it to a U.S. soldier.
Sure. Yeah. And then in return, they would, fire napalm a village, and then the children would be running through the street like torches,
Yeah. So damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, yeah.
Although it'd be easy to be not damned, because the reason they were running up to us with grenades is because we were rightfully, and not rightfully, but like why they were doing it was because we were invading their country.
Yeah.
We had an excuse. I still have never heard a solid reason for why the Vietnam War happened. It's like a huge convoluted thing.
Yeah.
A fucking litigation or whatever, that they were trying to, this country did this and we owed for that, and we had to go in because of these resources and whatever, right? But it was Henry Kissinger was the reason that it happened. He won the Nobel Peace Prize for Vietnam, basically.
Fucking asshole.
Yeah. But like, again, a famous, Israelite.
Yeah. Vietnam
I'm sure he was good friends with Netanyahu, I think.
Could be.
I think so in the past.
Yeah, he's pulling the strings.
I don't know that he's pulling the strings, but like, he's definitely pulling the strings for America, but I don't know that he's necessarily pulling their strings. I think it's more of
He's still alive, isn't he?
He very well could be. Yeah. And if he did pass
Older
away,
than
it would have
us.
been probably in like 2018.
Yeah. No, he was pretty old when he was with Nixon, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think so. Or he was one of those guys that just looked old. Everyone back then just looked old. Even
Yeah,
when they
true
were in their
enough.
40s, they looked like they were 60 because they just lived like shit.
Yeah.
Smoking fucking like chimneys.
Yeah, but he probably started that when he was 14
Yeah.
or 12.
Yeah.
You know, like he was a New Yorker, wasn't he?
I think so.
German as well.
I think he was like a New York socialite. I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah, German Jewish New York socialite. Holy, yeah, that's a group right there, eh? like peanut butter and jam.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. You can't. I don't think you could have a major city without those that group of people.
Yeah.
And saying that group of people is kind of like who would be funding what's going on, right?
Yeah.
It can't be all Israel.
Well, like what do you mean? What can't be all that?
Okay, so if I'm speculating that like synagogues or churches, let's just go with churches, they give all of their money, right?
Mm-hmm.
So each church would have their prudent reserve, what they need just to keep the lights on and everything else. Anything over and above would be tossed up to the next level, tossed up to
Right.
religion
Pyramid scheme
was the original pyramid scheme, right?
style. Yeah,
It all goes up to the Vatican.
sure.
And
They've been collecting 10%. You're supposed to give 10% of your whatever you earn that week. That's what you're supposed
Yeah.
to give on that Sunday. Can you imagine?
yeah,
And so you do that every week, every Sunday, so 4 times a week. And they've got how many people? 1 billion people.
the
that do
entire
that,
world.
that have been doing that for how many years?
Yeah, the entire world
Yeah.
doing that constantly. There's a Jewish people, right? Like their synagogue. It's got to apply the same way, I imagine. And their Vatican is this place. All the money is funneling into there to use as they see fit. How could someone that is poor and displaced, like Germany had to pay for World War II, but around that time Israel had nowhere to live. They were essentially homeless. They went from homeless to having the Pegasus system, and this, like, wow.
Yeah, I mean they were a people without a land, but they had homes. They were all places already.
But they slapped together a country better than most countries
Yeah.
that have been doing it for a long time.
Yeah, well, so that's the reason that things got kind of turbulent at the beginning, right? Was because there was a long-standing, like Britain owned Palestine for the longest time,
Right.
and then they had a mandate that they would not allow Jewish migration because Jews have been trying to get there for a long time,
Yeah.
right? But the people living there, like, we don't want this big flood of people, right? And then after the war, when they had the Balfour Declaration,
Yes.
right? Then that meant that the Jews were going to be promised the land of Palestine to them. So the British were going to give it up to them, basically, and give them the land.
Yeah.
That was going to be that was supposed to be the secretly, I mean, they've got political reasons for it, but like under the table, the reasons for it were, if you get America into the war to help us win the war, then we'll give you Palestine. Or, we want Palestine if we help get America into the war.
Yeah. Now,
And that declaration was made out to Lionel Rothschild. That's what it's addressed to Mr. Lionel Rothschild.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's addressed to him
Wow.
by the Duke of Balfour or whatever his name was. Yeah.
Yeah. Still now. Huh. Now, see, the other way that this could go, if it doesn't happen the rosy way I'm speculating, like the Mongols, like he's kind of promising in English, is that they just stomp their way over these countries that have pissed them off in the past. Egypt, Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, like that whole area is now Jewland.
Yeah.
You know, that will still accomplish the same thing. They'll be able to strengthen their economy, expand their land, and that is another superpower for the future. That could also be a good thing, like later, but not for the Muslim people.
Mm-hmm.
They might disappear.
Yeah. That's the thing. I mean, so it's hard to justify it when there's already people living there, you know, like we've discussed before, basically, right? Like, I mean, it's the holy land for both of them for different reasons, right? They think that it's holy because Muhammad was there, and they've got their sacred mosque that's built right on top of the Temple of Solomon, which is the most holy site for the Jews. Now, what do you think is the most important aspect of Judaism?
Aspect?
Yeah, like of being Jewish. What do you think one of the most important things is of being Jewish?
Just about?
Well, the religion, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like upholding traditions and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So they're deeply religious people, right? Just like, you know, the Muslims, basically, right? How devout they are to the way that their book was written.
Yeah.
Right? And so if you have a book that you wrote that says you're the greatest people in the world and that the world belongs to you, and then you go around saying, here's the proof right here, you know, like God said this is our land. It says so right in this book here. You know, if you don't, you know, if you can't get me to believe that that's true, then all you've got is that, you know, that assertion, right? Like you would have to believe that book is true. Otherwise, you're just saying, well, you're just stealing my land, right? And that's where we come in, misunderstood, because we see that these people are coming in and it looks like they're just stealing the land.
Yeah.
But they're saying, well, I've got the deed to the land right here. You know, it's promised to me.
Yeah, but I think we all are kind of in on that. So, like,
well, because the three main religions, right? Like Islam, and Catholicism and Judaism, they're all based on Abraham.
Yeah.
Right? That's their main figure who kind of unites all three of them. Because, you know, like they don't all believe in Jesus or that he was who he said he was, right?
Yeah.
They all, you know, some focus on Muhammad, the others focus on Abraham, and then Jesus is the main character of the Catholics, right? So, but the one thing they all agree on is that is the promised land for Jews.
Yeah.
And that there's a prophecy, right? There's a biblical prophecy that the end of times, that all that, right, where the final savior will come down and show himself, right? And they think, you know, some people think it's going to be Muhammad shows up. Some people think it's going to be Jesus. And then I think actually even the Jews think that they believe in Jesus, but they don't believe he's come yet. So that's how they think that the Jesus that was there was not the Messiah. So they think that that's the thing. It's not Jesus. It's going to be a Messiah. They're waiting for a Messiah, right?
Yeah. They do believe in him.
Yeah. Not necessarily Jesus, but a Messiah, you know?
Yeah. They do believe in Jesus. They do believe in everything Jesus did as fact. Muslim, right?
Yeah, Muslims do. Yeah, but the Jews don't.
I think the Jews do. He's a part of their literature, but they
think that he was a real person, but they don't think he was the Messiah.
Correct.
Yeah. Correct. Right. And then, I think that's kind of the same thing with Muslims. I think they believe that Jesus was a prophet of God, but he wasn't as good as Muhammad. Because Muhammad was the one that said that. I mean, he gave them that book, like the holy book that they use, the Quran, right?
Yeah.
That was where they got that, was specifically dictated by Muhammad, apparently. Right. So it says, you know, things like, well, you know, Jesus was, you know, this great prophet, but not as great as me.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. Yeah, it's like the world is all Star Wars fans, and then like one group is saying we're R2D2 fans, and
Yeah,
they're going, "That's cute, buddy."
right. But see, that's where the confusion and the fighting all comes in because they got the same books, basically. At least the same stories, but they're just written differently, right? And they got a lot of the same characters that kind of cross over between. It's like fan fiction.
So where he is right, and I do want to see this happen, is he said the word tourism. So it, just like you said, this area of the world is a pinch point for three major religions, huge religions. How is that area not like protected? Like they're all saying, no, we must live and have economy and country in here. Why not just separate it and keep it all as like a giant theme?
Yeah, or like a UNESCO World Heritage kind of site, right? That's like, like United Nations land or something that's kind of open,
Yeah.
like split, like Antarctica. The way Antarctica is kind of like belongs to everybody.
Yeah. Your holy sites, we're going to protect them.
Yeah.
With the utmost care because it's this area, because we've had so much problem. We're going to white glove fucking everything.
Now, between the Catholics and the Jews, their belief is, and I'm not sure about the Quran exactly, but their belief is that Jesus or / the Messiah can't come until the third temple is rebuilt.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's the prophecy they're waiting on, and Christians especially are like really famous for just kind of turning the other cheek and letting bad shit happen because they're like, well, God will save us,
Right.
Like they're very pacifist when it gets down to like, oh well, we either have to fight or we have to roll over. And they're like, well, let's just roll over because God will take care of it.
Yeah. How about the children you hurt? And then they get real silent about that. Okay, well, how about all the communities that you ruined? How about some reparations for that? And then it's silence. Like our Truth and Reconciliation Day.
Mm-hmm.
Just Native Canadians, because we can speak on that, living here, looking at it with our own eyes, what they've done to our natives in the name of Catholicism.
Mm-hmm.
How about something, anything, some kind of speech, some kind of like a priest that'll go up and just like, hey guys, I know that sucks, and we've learned a lot of lessons. One of them being, your culture is beautiful. You should be able to practice it. Hey, we got Christianity too. If you want to take part, we're over here.
Yeah. That's how it should be.
That's how it should be.
And that's how it probably will be someday, because the idea is that eventually, when this does come down to it, that there'll be a melding of the religions, like the Catholics have basically begun the process. But, their idea is to like melt these all together and say, especially if they can kind of fulfill a biblical prophecy, right? Where all of a sudden they destroy this mosque that's on top of the temple, and then they rebuild the temple that they're destined to do, right? Then you've got all the Jews are happy because that's destined. You've got 1 billion Catholics, right? They're all behind it. They know Jesus can't come until that temple's built. So, they got their fingers crossed for that.
And then we just got to appease the Muslims.
The Muslims, right? But there's 1 billion of them, and that's their holy place, and they're there first.
Yeah.
Right? They've already got their house built. And here you've literally got this group of Jewish people who are off to the side who do news stories about being ready to build on top of that. I think I told you before about that Temple Mount Society, right?
Yeah, they got it ready in a warehouse.
Yeah. And it's well, not even a warehouse. I think you can go to a place in Israel, like it's an actual like temple. Like it looks like it's like a what do you call it? What are they called? Not mosques, but Jewish ones. What are they called?
Synagogue.
Synagogue.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I think they've got like a giant synagogue there where you can actually go and see, because they've got like gold menorahs and stuff, like solid gold menorahs worth like $7 million. It's worth.
Yeah, I believe it.
You know, but they've got all kinds of stuff like that. They've got the cornerstone already, ready to go. They've had it for years, ready to go.
Cool.
And then they've got. I think they've even got like all the wood and other quarrying materials that they need.
Yeah.
So, they're ready to go. They're basically just saying like, oh, we're just waiting for this building to fall down. That's what they say, right? Without saying it. They're like, oh, we can't rebuild the temple until that's gone. So, we're just waiting for God to work his miracles.
Yeah.
And that's what this is all going to come down to.
If they're trying to please Moses, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
Look at the temple we built, Moses. My people did back in the day. What I had to liberate them from? A fucking pyramid, bro.
They should have had a couple guys go up the river and just dump some dye.
Yeah.
The whole river started to blood.
Well, we do have the locusts.
Yeah. Be like, oh, wait, somebody fucking switched it. It's all green.
Yeah.
It's St. Patrick's Day one.
Yeah. Then all the people of Egypt have to break out in boils. Firstborn would die on Passover if you don't
boil their firstborn.
But yeah, boil your firstborn. Yeah. Well, now, if it does make a deity come back, I say try it out.
Well, let's just say right now we saw fucking Jesus beaming up in the sky, right? I mean, unless it's in your mind, how would you be able to do it so that everyone would see? Right?
Jesus?
Yeah. Like if, Jesus returned to Earth.
Yeah.
Let's just imagine like how that would happen. Like, do you think it would be like, everyone's sitting around and all of a sudden you get a vision in your brain and you can kind of see Jesus's face in your head?
No.
Or do you think you'd be sitting in your backyard when there was a flash of light and there was like a portal that opened in the sky and then there was like a giant fucking Jesus face or something that was like, my children, I have returned.
That didn't happen in well, if we're going by Bible. Because like I mentioned, like I did Bible study for many years through school. And Catholicism, Judaism is required reading.
Really?
Yeah, the first half of the Bible is the Torah.
Really?
Yeah.
Like before the Old Testament?
The New Testament, the other name for it is Torah. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So the New Testament is the Torah?
The New Testament is Catholicism.
Right.
But
the Torah is the exact same thing?
Or extremely similar.
Okay.
Because they essentially believe in the same things, but Judaism stops at a point.
Okay.
And goes, this is perfect. And then Jesus happened. And then that's the New Testament.
Right.
So essentially the same religion. Only Catholics have that added of just like Jesus was cool and Jews was like, nah, this time he pissed us off. He didn't let us do our gambling on Sundays or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Like
Saturday.
yeah, something like that. He made people mad enough where he was executed.
You know what? I was listening to this guy Joe Atwell. Have you ever heard of him? He did a documentary and I think a book some while back called Caesar's Messiah, and it was basically about the story about Josephus, the first century historian, who they often use as proof that Jesus existed because he was, historian. He wrote all these big volumes of books back then about histories that went on. And then he's got like literally one paragraph that was like, Jesus showed up and he was grand. You know, and then everyone's like, see, that's how you know Jesus is real, because that guy lived in the first century. You know, but I mean, he's literally written like fucking like books like that are like Bible thickness, and he would write volumes of them. Like he'd write like 3 volumes of this war, 3 volumes of that war. You know, and like so it's funny that they would just find like one little snippet from him. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I myself, like, let's see. According to the books, the way the prophecy is supposed to like happen, from what I know, it's not going to be portal opening or anything of that nature. It's just going to be a baby that they know.
Right. But so technically, he should be here already.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of how everyone's thinking about it. Because when this happens, you know, like let's say they fucking knocked that mosque down and they built that temple, got it going. You know, like we said, like, would you see that happen? Or would all of a sudden someone step forward and they're 33 years old kind of thing, right? The Masonic number, and they show up because, like, and then again, you know, think about who runs the TV networks and all that, right? Like all the fuckery and the misinformation.
Jewish,
that goes around. So just imagine that if Jesus really did show up, and you know, I mean, let's say I was Jesus. I just found out I was Jesus. Like, who are you going to tell, and who's going to believe you?
See, exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
You'd have to like manifest a tiny sun in your hand or something, you know, to just be like, well, check this out. Some sort of amazing magic trick, you know, like basically, which is what the Bible's kind of about, right? It's like he had to show up and be like, I'm the Son of Man, and people are like, bullshit. And then he's like, well, here, let me raise this guy from the dead.
He did that. He rose somebody from the dead. He cured some illnesses, walked on water.
Right. But there's also several other people that did that, you know, supposedly.
Yeah.
You know?
He made a party out of nothing. That's documented.
A party out of nothing?
Yeah. So there was a bunch of people around, and they're like, he was teaching them. They're just like, we're going to go home. We're hungry. He's like, no, stay, hang out. And they're like, no, see you later. He goes, wait, hold on. I got wine for you. And they, you know, that whole water into wine?
Sure.
That's what this was from. People had jugs of water, and he started touching them. Look, you got wine, we can drink. And there was a basket, and he started pulling out endless fish and bread.
Yeah. So there is like blueprints for magic machines. So basically, like, if you're a magician, right, you go to a magic shop and buy a fucking, you know, prop, like, you know, the mummy's tomb or something that you get in, and it's got a hidden door behind it. You know, you buy the trick, right? And it costs you whatever, 10 grand, because it's like, you know, it's all built, a specially made thing, right? Well, like in ancient Greece and stuff, there was like guys who were making these like very specific devices that cost like, you know, 5 years worth of a person's wage or something like that. But it was like this giant fucking jug that had a special air hole on it, and you would fill half of it with water and half of it with wine, and you would start pouring it out as water. And then when you put your finger on this tiny little hole, kind of like a flute, you know, at the back, then it would cover up that hole, and then it would start drawing the wine side, and all of a sudden the water would turn into wine, and you'd be like, check this out. Right. And people would travel from far and wide to see that, you know, these people do these magic tricks, right? Because you can imagine someone invented something like that, you know, just, you know, Archimedes or someone who was like, you know, a famous fucking old smart person, Like you'd have no way to tell if you were just a fucking ignorant farmer or whatever, right? You'd be like,
Yeah.
holy fuck, did you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah, how easy it'd be to fleece people if you had that kind of power, right?
There's an actual job in India of a guy who will try to fleece people that way with the magic, and then when someone lines up to give him money, he gives them information like a pamphlet saying, "I just tried to fleece you. You got to be careful. Magic men don't exist." Like,
Yeah.
and that's a service they have to provide in India because of education and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, because lots of those countries are famous for that. You know, like I saw one, it was like Argentina or something, you know, some far off place, and they were like buying remedies from this guy. You know, this guy who claimed to be like a healer, and it turned out he was just selling like diluted gasoline and water, basically. Yeah, people like just drink.
Yeah. Yeah. Cambodia had a guy that claimed the last king reincarnated as a fish, and he has the fish. So for $1, you can drink some of the water the fish lives in. You know, and he had a lineup.
Wow,
He had a lineup of people that wanted to cure their ailments from this fish water.
that's wild.
From the people I talked to, because the healthcare is so shit. Like I talked to a guy who showed me a giant scar on his stomach, and he wasn't old. He was like maybe just a couple of years older than me. And he said, he was telling me like the next surgery is going to cost me 50 grand. And there's nobody I know that even has anything close to that kind of money.
Right.
So I'm going to have to let whatever illness this is painfully take me
Right.
when that time comes.
Right.
So I was like, oh shit, that's awful perspective. But when you're that desperate,
Yeah.
and they all know it doesn't work.
Yeah. Yeah.
They all know.
Someone comes along, it's like, oh, hey, if you eat these leeches.
Yeah. Yeah. When you're at the end of your life
Yeah.
and you're dead, that's the part we're forgetting. Like, why are these people so dumb and lining up? They're not dumb. They just don't have anything else. They're desperate. They
Right.
know it's not going to work, but they have $1 in their hand. Might as well Hail Mary it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
What if I buy a lottery ticket?
Yeah. Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
It's like the religious lottery.
Yeah. So I think we're kind of eating our own tail in that way. Religion leading us into these, no, it must be this way.
Yeah.
You know, that shit, dude. Like, okay, maybe you're like that dude with the stomach thing and paying $1 to drink fish water. Like, throw in the towel. You're done. Lay down.
Yeah.
Well, what's it gonna hurt if you move your religious spot?
Right.
I want to induce this. I want to see if they're right. See if they're right. See if your God is right. Move the religious spot. See if something bad happens. Get them to come back.
So what are you thinking? You try and move the Muslims?
Yeah, see who's willing to budge.
Yeah. Well, that's what it comes down to, right? Well, you guys go because this is our promised land. And they're saying, no, you get out. We were here first.
Yeah.
Right?
I just have a feeling that any argument I put forward is just going to boil down to, man, you don't know.
That's it, I know. But it literally comes down to that, like, this is our land, right? And you need to leave because this is our land according to this book that we wrote, you know?
Yeah.
And then the other people are like, sorry, we're here first. That's basically it.
Yeah. Well, you would hope that anybody living in any kind of houses, you would leave them there.
Did I show you those pictures basically the development of like Palestine over, in Israel over the past like 50 years.
The development? No.
Yeah. It shows it. It's a good visual to understand basically, what you're looking at as a visual representation, because it's hard to kind of get a grasp on, like, when you think Palestine, Israel, or whatever, you think, oh, okay, these people are living side by side beside each other kind of thing, right? But you kind of got to think of it like, like a circle, and then you draw another circle in that circle, and you're like, okay, that's us. That's Israel. Inside that's the big circle. A little circle inside is Israel. And then over time, that circle's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And now it's basically the same size as the big circle. They're almost matched over each other. And they're saying, well, this is all the land that we've taken, right? And it's been over different, wars, basically, right? They've had different things where, like, okay, somebody bombs them, right? Some sort of event, October 7th like event. And then it sparks this giant, like desert storm kind of thing. And then at the end of that, they have new land. Because they're like, you attacked us because you hate Jews. And so we defended ourselves, and we've now defended ourselves right over your land.
Yeah. Now, like, what if tomorrow Justin Trudeau came on the TV and said, yeah, sorry to my fellow countrymen, I've had enough of Bloc Québécois and who's his face? His opposition guy, Poilievre.
Yes.
Poilievre? Yeah, I've had enough of French people, and he wipes them out. He does whatever. I don't even want to speculate what that would be. But there's all this empty space. Quebec becomes a ghost town. And we're all encouraged to move there. There's a house waiting for you. If you just go there, you'll be mortgage free. Would you go? It's hard to say no.
Yeah, exactly. All right, check this out.
Yeah.
This is kind of where it started, like right around World War II, right? So this is when the settlers came in, came in through boats that got liberated from concentration camps and stuff like that. They got sent to these couple of white spots here. Those were like settlements, right? And then a few years later, this is where the areas that they took over.
So the white is Jewish.
So the white/blue is Jewish, yeah. And then after another major war, that was how much land they took. And this is in, like, I think that's the 50s or something, maybe the 60s. And then this is like modern day. So all those little green spots, that's everywhere that the Palestinian people are now residing, when this is what they started with, right? And now, after a few different conflicts between people, that's the little green spot, so that they have left. And all around them is the people that are. It's not just letting them live there. They have fences around all those areas, and they're not allowed out.
Yeah.
Because, there's dangerous people. We don't know which of you are terrorists.
So, audio-wise, you showed me a pretty sizable rhombus, and it was slowly turning like from green to the Jewish flag to its entirely the Jewish flag now. And it just kind of seems like, from looking at that picture, they're just hitting their last little bits to finalize their plans.
Yeah, well, those last couple of green spots are basically, it's going to end. There's only going to be one green spot left, and it's going to be that Temple Mount. That's going to be the last thing. I guarantee that fucking mosque is going to be the spark. Like, they're talking now, oh, it's World War III. Like, they're fighting Iran, and, they want to do this. Like, it's sparking off, but something's going to happen, whether it's like, a slash terrorist or a stray missile that happens to accidentally go, misfired.
Hit the wrong person.
Well, remember that hospital? I don't know if you heard about that a little while back, but there was a hospital in Gaza that Israel was like, oh, Hamas has a fucking, their leadership's all hiding underneath this hospital.
Yeah.
And they were like saying, well, we're dropping leaflets. We're not gonna bomb it. We're gonna storm it with troops or whatever, right? And then, like, the next day, there was a huge fucking explosion in the parking lot, and it damaged a large portion of the front of the building. And they said, Israel said, oh, well, that was a Hamas rocket that we shot it down, and it accidentally fucking hit that building by accident.
Well, I did see that in terms of living under the hospital, they're finding this out by the junction boxes on the outside of buildings.
That's how they're.
Yeah, you'll see the electrical box that'll have some fuses on the outside.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there'll be one beside it where the pipe doesn't go up into the hospital. It goes down into the ground. Yeah.
Well, that specific hospital, though, I think that was built by Israel, as far as I know. Like, originally it was like a rebuilt hospital or something like that, and Israel was the one that constructed it, and they put a bunker underneath there. So that's how they knew that there was a bunker under there. They were assuming that it was being used by Hamas because it was like such a nice neat little bunker that was just sitting there. So they're like, we have reason to believe that they're hiding in this bunker underneath the hospital, using them as fucking human shields, right? So they ended up bombing the hospital. Finally, they went in there. Apparently, they were shooting people in their beds. Like, the soldiers were like shooting people that were like in their hospital beds. And this is like according to the doctors and stuff that were working there that later did interviews with, different news agencies that were actually reporting, because places like NBC that were there was only like 2 or 3 news sources that were actually allowed to have people that were on the ground. And those people that were on the ground were in tents that were like miles away from fucking where any action were going on. So it would be like, oh, okay, we're here, we're ready to report. And then some guy would come over and give you a clip of fucking footage or whatever and be like, oh, here's what happened. This is the story. You know? And then, oh, okay. And then they would go report that, So they're not actually doing any reporting. They're just fucking, they're just siphoning the pre-approved news. Like, oh, we've got it here, fresh, fucking hot off the press,
Well, yeah, that's a big question. What's pre-approved?
Yeah.
Well, what don't we see? What's going on? I haven't seen many reports, but all I've seen is angry people.
Yeah.
Shouting. Okay, what are you shouting about? I don't like kids getting blown up. I don't either.
Yeah. And they're often showing the protesters, and then they hear them chanting. They're like, "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free," And then they go in there and like, "Can you tell me what river and what sea?" And nobody knows. Nobody knows. And it's kind of funny listening to them. Well, I just want them to be free. And they're like, oh, you realize chanting that is like a genocidal chant, right? That means like kill all the Jews between that area.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
They don't fully grasp what they're doing.
They don't. Not that I believe that that's what that is, but because I don't think that's what that chant means. But still, they're questioning them on their beliefs on all this stuff, and literally all they can just do are chanting slogans, and then often they say like, "Sorry, you have to talk to the organizer. We're not allowed to talk, right?" Because they don't want to sound like idiots, basically.
Did I talk about the $1 million prize? So
I don't think so, but I think I know where you're going with this. I think I heard something about this where, some famous Jewish professor said, like, if you can debate him on the conflict and, like, give him a good reason why, then on some aspect, then he would give you $1 million or something.
No, it was a lot of the people protesting with the Palestinians over here is the LGBTQ community.
Oh yeah, I heard about that.
Because it's a hot button thing.
Sure.
Like it's something
like
for
Queers for Palestine or something like that, right? That group.
They started associating themselves.
Yeah.
And so the $1 million prize went out when, okay, so the people you're standing with, where they come from, if you could hold a gay pride parade, I'll give you $1 million.
Yeah, without getting killed, right?
Well, yeah, without getting killed. I got to be able to give you the $1 million.
Yeah.
It won't be just I'll hold a parade of one, and so my loved one can have.
See, now this is the biggest part that I always have trouble with, because, like, I've read a lot of stuff about how the Jewish religion works and that kind of thing. I get an idea into how they think religiously, right?
Yeah.
But studying from Muslims, I never understand what their position is exactly. Like I hear a lot of like, oh, they're really mean to the women, and they think that there should be all this kind of favoritism to just their way of life, and it's very extreme, like the way they'll throw you off of a building if you're gay, right? Yeah. All that kind of stuff. They're like, oh well, we can't have any of that. Adultery will stone you in the streets, and and I don't know how much of that is all true and how much of that is them telling us that that's what their religion is about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I remember even when I was a kid, people saying like, "Oh, those Muslims, like they like to beat up their wives and stuff like that because it's allowed," But like every time I've actually met a Muslim person, they're always like very nice and like really like warm, and they seem loving. And I've even heard, I remember working with these dudes that were Muslim one time. And I only know that because he told me randomly. We were all working in this room, and he's listening to music, and he was like, he had this thick accent. And he's like, man, I'm a Muslim, but I swear to God, I love Jesus Christ so much, man. I just love him. It was this dance, and I was like, okay.
Okay, must have been in the song.
Yeah, I don't know what he was thinking, but I was like, oh, that's just an interesting comment. Like, it was like he was almost trying to convince me, like, I'm Muslim, but, I love Jesus.
Yeah, well, the easiest assumption is you met a girl.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
I had never even thought of that. Yeah. Totally.
Yeah, met a girl. You want to come to me to my church? I'm Muslim, but fuck Jesus. Yeah.
Back in the day, people were fucking converting all over the place, right? Like one guy would like convert to Judaism, then another guy would convert to Muslim, then like there was a famous case, I think in 1600s. Like there was a portion at that time, almost all like Jews in the entire world, half of them were part of this society called Franken Sabbatian, I think.
Okay.
Sabbatean Frankists. And basically, it was this rabbi who came up with this philosophy that if we can't all be saints, then we can all be sinners, and the best way to get to God is to do complete sin and then be absolved of it. So like is to like basically if God created sin, then sin is godly. That was their preaching towards it. So this is kind of where Satanism came from, or at least the Satanism that we kind of know now, like not the pagan Satanism,
Yeah.
but the more like blood ritual type of Satanist work and stuff, like where you're trying to like communicate with like demons and stuff.
That's dumb.
Yeah. It's a weird philosophy
I
to
know.
try and pass, right? But at that time, I think it was 1666 because that was the whole thing. It was the year,
right.
or not 16, but yeah, it was 1666. So it's like the mark of the beast, right?
Yeah.
So you can imagine if you lived in that year and it was like 666, if you were all Bible heavy, you'd be, oh, this is the year. It's got to be, you know, the year of the beast.
Yeah, they probably had their equivalent of wacky characters at that time that were famous.
Yeah, and I guarantee every generation of people that comes along thinks that they're in the apocalypse. Every time people get to their 40s or whatever, they're like, this is it. 10 years from now, there's a comet that's coming. Oh, there's going to be a giant wave, says this fucking prophecy. Or, you know, this guy's coming back. We're going to have a giant war. There'll be a giant earthquake. There's going to be a flood. You know, like everyone's got an idea. But they're all feeling like, oh, we're living in the end times right now. And then something happens, right? You imagine fucking bubonic plague coming through. You're like, oh, well, I guess this is the apocalypse, right?
Well, for some people, it's true.
Yeah.
Floods, all the different natural disasters and problems we've had. For them, it's like a micro apocalypse situation. For a person, the end of the world is the end of the universe for them, or the end of their life.
Yeah. I mean, even if you're living in one area, right? I mean, that's kind of what I remember them speculating originally, at some point, was that the whole idea of a biblical flood was basically that it was regional, but because that's where the people were taking the history or writing the history, then, I mean, that's their whole world, right? I mean, if you're living, just this small portion of Africa or something, and then there's a giant fucking, tsunami that breaks into that whole portion and destroys, like, even if it's just like 1/8 of that area, of that continent, like that's your entire world, right? That's 2 days travel for you or something, right? And as far as you can see, it's all water now. Like, that's the end of the world, right? As far as you know, you've never been further than your village, and now basically, any way you go for 2 days, it's just fucking gone. It's all just puddle.
Yeah. Yeah. If you had a small village in the middle of nowhere and it was ending, you would probably write down somewhere like, this is the end of the world.
Mm-hmm.
The person who finds it is going to be like, oh my God, the world had ended at one time. It did for them.
Yeah. And that's the problem with history, is that, like, I mean, for so much of it, people were just fucking talking about, like, when did we start writing shit down exactly? A lot of times people are writing this stuff down 200 years later,
If it survives.
Yeah. Like, I mean, a lot of the Bible is supposedly like, 100 years after Jesus died, basically, people are writing this shit down.
Yeah.
And it's been orally transmitted for however many long you can imagine. It'd be like a game of telephone.
Thousands of years.
Yeah.
Wasn't even decided upon until much later that, this is what it is. They had to go to the underground version of the religion to form it. It was completely different before. It was practiced down in catacombs. It was outlawed.
What was?
Christianity.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's kind of common that we know the Romans used to feed Christians to lions and tigers in the Colosseum.
Right.
That was their preamble for their gladiator matches.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Christians were the hunted. And there is still original Christian paintings in catacombs in Rome and in the Jerusalem. They still believed in Jesus. They talked about him. They passed the Bible around orally because if they were caught with it, they went to the Colosseum immediately.
Right.
Right. So it stayed like that for a long, long time before Constantine.
Yeah, that whole idea that knowledge is power, right? That was a thing before, right? Like, it's so many times in history, like, reading was illegal. And if they caught you with books and shit like that, then yeah, it was fucking death.
Yeah.
Because they didn't want people to know about stuff, right? And that's part of the reason why the original Bible was in Latin, was because nobody could speak Latin except for the priest, right? So you had to go to the church to hear him read that Bible. Otherwise, you didn't know what was, the word of God or what,
Yeah. Yeah, the original work, like the earliest depiction we have is in two languages at the same time. Greek and Aramaic. So like it was already a universal story, like way, way back.
And then I think we talked about that last time, but I think Latin is Aramaic is Latin backwards.
Yeah. You're saying that.
Yeah.
That's nuts. Yeah. Fuck you. I'm just turning my letters 90 degrees. Yeah. Almost all of English, too. Like, a lot of our words, like, French is looking back at us going, come on, really? Yup, that's the word. And then we'll throw in weird ones every once in a while. As a good example, pineapple. Every country does some kind of variation of the word ananas, but English is the only one. Pineapple.
Like, really?
Yeah. You want to stick with that one? Yup. It's neither a pine nor an apple.
Yeah.
It is to me.
Yeah, I wonder where the origin of that particular word came from.
Every single country, some variation of ananas.
And what do they call a banana?
In French, I don't know.
In what other countries though? Like that?
I know Cambodian. It's jade.
Oh yeah,
or jet.
But a pineapple would be anana or something.
Yeah, it's variation.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Real mix up.
Yeah. I think that it's a native. It's native to there. I saw a lot of them. Pineapples were pretty plentiful.
Wild, grown wild.
Yeah. Growing around, seeing them a lot for sale.
Oh,
it's like, cool, that's how they grow, eh? That is neat.
You buy them on the side of the street and you just chop them off and then throw straw in it or whatever.
Yeah. Bits of honey in bags that they found in the forest, stuff like that.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
It's interesting that they do eat so fresh,
Mhm.
and I wonder if any of the ailments that my wife experiences is because of our diet and the stuff that we put in our food, which is like a large hot topic issue that we talk about.
Yeah.
Fluoride. I just learned about fluoride bothering the fuck out of me right now.
You just learned about fluoride?
I always kind of knew about it, and then I saw a small documentary about how they're just like stuffing it into everything we have.
Yeah. Not only that, but the history of it. There's like these pictures of like, you can see of like New York in the like 50s when they're like trying to control the rat population. And there's like pictures of these guys and they just have barrels and it says rat poison. And then underneath it says the ingredients fluoride. That's it. One ingredient.
Yeah, too much fluoride is like so bad for you.
Yeah. And so how do they fucking regulate that? They're like, oh well, we put it a minimal amount in the tap water, so it's not gonna affect you. But like, they don't know how much tap water you're drinking. Then if you're buying fucking something from a store that's made with tap water, right? Then that's got it in it too, probably to some degree, right? That they're not mentioning.
Absolutely.
Like. It just filters down the train or down the chain constantly.
Well, that bottle of water that's right there, it's inside of it.
Yeah.
It is good for toothpaste. That's one they can't deny.
Well, I disagree on that. I have never believed in the whole fluoride for teeth thing.
Yeah,
because I don't think there's any real proof beside it.
There isn't. The proof that they came out with, according to this documentary, is just a lot of backroom marketing, muscle work, because the companies that were producing the fluoride had nowhere to put it. It was killing fish. It was poisoning everything. So they needed somewhere to stick it. So they started sticking it in food and water.
Mm-hmm.
And people were causing a stink. And then they bought off enough dentists. Yeah, it's good for your teeth.
Yeah.
Like, it makes your teeth hard. So what about your insides?
I think it's an industrial waste product. Like that's where they get it from.
Yeah. So instead of throwing it away, they found a way to stuff it into as much as possible. Like, too much is bad for your teeth and you'll get a brown stain.
Yeah. That you see in like a lot of European places.
Yes. They probably brush their teeth too much. And cognitive impairment, stuff like that. Fluoride is super bad for you. We've all ingested it. Yeah. We all continue to ingest it.
Well, this water bottle has 0.28 ppm.
Fluoride.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's added, it must be, right? Because it says natural spring water. So they took it from a natural spring and then it's got ozone or purified through ozone here. But then it's got fluoride, so it must have been added to it.
Yeah, ozone stinks. I worked a day at a water bottling plant.
Oh yeah, I used to work in a water bottle plant.
Over in Burlington?
No, in BC.
In BC?
Long time. It was actually, you know what? It was like one of my first jobs ever. and I was fucking, those big jugs, the big fucking bottles. So I had a truck where I'd do the delivery route or whatever. And I was delivering water on 9/11 when it happened. Yeah. So I remember I was like, it was like early in the morning and, right around fucking 9 o'clock or whatever. I'm like delivering water to people's houses and this lady opens the door and she's like, "Have you heard the news?" And I was like, "No," I was just listening to music, like I had tape in the car or something like that. She's like, "Oh, come in. She pulled me into her house. She's like, "Look at the news, look at this." So I fucking sat in this like random lady's house because she was so eager to fucking show me this news, and I'm watching the fucking the towers just smoking away. She's like, "Oh, they say it's a terrorist attack."
Yeah.
And I was like, I thought it was so crazy, and by the end of the day, they had a fucking name. That's what I thought was the craziest. So I'm like, wow, fuck. Like, how did this even happen? And by like 3 o'clock at the end of the day, like ready to go home, and they're like, "Yeah, they say his name's Osama bin Laden." Like they've got a finger on it already. It hasn't even been fucking 24 hours.
Yeah,
they're already throwing out names. They think it might be Osama bin Laden, and then sure enough, we found some Muslim passports here, and yeah.
See why I don't trust Netanyahu's speech? Shit like that. You got to name that fast. You kind of knew who it was already, and come on, why are you solving it ahead of time?
Yeah.
Oh, it's very complex and well, maybe you're doing the wrong thing. It shouldn't be complex.
Yeah.
Let's just simplify it, move on, or I'm not dumb, and I need someone to explain to me.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like, if it was really just about living our lives and whatever, then people would be able to do that. And, it'd be easy to just be like, "We're going to be over here, and you guys be over there. We'll just throw up a border or, like a Berlin style wall even, right? And just be like, you guys over there and us over here, and that's great.
Let me know when you need help."
Yeah, right? But they can't, because it's like, we need this entire land. This is our country, right? And it all comes down to that every time. It's like, this is our land, and you guys are in our land. And then the Muslims are saying, we were here first.
You think America's going to lose their land?
I don't know. I mean, it's going to probably not, because it's going to be whoever goes to try and take that, even if it's themselves, it's going to be a fucking hell of a fight,
It's going to be decided in a couple of weeks or a month.
Oh, yeah? What, with the election?
Yeah, that's mid-November.
Yeah. Right? And it seems like either way that it goes, it's going to be a meltdown, right? If Trump wins, it's going to be like fucking George Floyd riots all over again. And if fucking Kamala wins, then it's going to be like, you stole the election, and fucking, which either way, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, even the Palestine protesters will stay at home, right?
Yeah.
Fuck that. I'm not going out. That's dangerous.
Remember when they were fucking doing those protests, like, in Seattle and stuff, and there was like those pallets of bricks that were showing up at the protests?
Yes,
yeah.
I do.
I think that started happening again already. Like they were doing
piles of bricks.
Palestine protest, and there was a fucking pallet of bricks that showed up. Like,
bring the bricks.
October 24th, 1945, the Bantu pirates gave birth to their most powerful weapon of global control, the United Nations. According to plan, the British pulled out of Palestine and gave the land to the Jewish Zionists. These Zionist extremists call themselves God's chosen race of people and believe they have a God-given right to the land of the Palestinians. It is important to know that the land now called Israel was originally called Canaan in ancient times. Canaan was populated by the Canaanite people, today's Palestinians, imprisoned in refugee camps in Israel. About 3,500 years ago, the Semitic Hyksos kings ruled Egypt for 100 years, but were expelled from Egypt into Canaan. The Egyptians called these Hyksos people the Habaru, which means Hebrews. These expelled Hebrews invaded and conquered the land of Canaan and changed the name of the land from Canaan to Israel.
Canaan.
Yeah. That's where it comes from. It was named after him.
In 1948, the Bantu-controlled United Nations officially turned Palestine into the Zionist state of Israel. To deal with the millions of Palestinian residents, the Israeli Jews massacred and drove them from their villages and homeland. The Rothschilds then began financing Jewish Holocaust refugees to build illegal Jewish settlements on Palestinian land. These illegal Jewish settlements set the stage for Israel's Prime Minister, Ariel Sharon's reign of terror against Palestinians who dared to defend what was left of their stolen homeland.
So this is the recent stuff. So this is where, I don't know if you've ever seen these TikTok videos where like a guy from New Jersey who's got a yarmulke on comes in with a handgun. He's like, "This is my house now." And they're like, "Please, this is our house." And he's like, "Get out. This is my place now."
Yep.
Yeah. And they're like, "Why are you doing this?" He's like, "If I don't do it, someone else is going to do it. Well, it better me. You know, I'm not going to shoot you. Just get out of my house." You know, they're like, "Why are you waving this gun at us?"
Yeah.
He's allowed as a Jewish person to open carry a weapon. You know, like they're allowed to have guns and whatever. But if you're a Muslim and you've got a gun, that's a punishable offense.
Yeah. I'm
You know?
helping you.
That's like, "Oh, well, I know, but I'm in my house and I've got a gun." "Yeah, but you're not allowed to have a gun. It's illegal for you to have a gun." You're like, "But you've got a gun." "Yeah, I know, but I'm Jewish. I'm allowed to have a gun."
Yeah.
You know, that's what the law is. I didn't make the rules. That's what they always say.
Like Saddam Hussein, Sharon violated dozens of UN resolutions by using hundreds of tanks and American-supplied gunships and planes in an unrelenting campaign of bombing, murdering,
Right. Well, how else are they going to do it, right? They're not
and
making any of this.
terrorizing the Palestinians off of what remained of their land.
Yep.
There's this clip of Biden, and they're like, what are you planning to do about the hurricane?" He's like, "Oh, well, I've already done everything I can. I can't really do anything else." And they're like, "Well, these people are like, they don't have no help.
Yeah.
The National Guard is in Ukraine.
Yep.
That state's National Guard is in fucking
Yep.
Ukraine fighting. They're helping them fight, you know?"
Exactly.
And then literally, like, after he's like, "Oh, I really can't do anything else," then they show a clip of like 2 days earlier when he's like, "I'm proud to announce that I'm signing over $25 million in new funding for Israel." You know?
Yeah.
Because where are they getting all these bombs? Like, they can't do any of the shit that they're doing without other people, right? They're a tiny little nation. Like, where are they getting all this stuff? How are they developing a nuclear bomb? They've got nuclear bombs, right? But people are giving it to them as a gift, you know, so they can use it for self-defense.
L'chaim. Yeah, like like that map you just showed me. How did they take over that much?
Yeah, and it's an excuse. Yeah, not only money, but like every time it's an excuse. You know, it's like, okay, we're all sitting here, nothing's happening. Like you could see at the beginning there was like, you know, it was all Palestinian land, and then before you know it, those little settlements that are Jewish, all of a sudden somebody attacks them or a bomb goes off, right? Say a bomb goes off. Well, now, we've got to defend ourselves from these people that are attacking us. So they start shooting and fucking attack in different ways with, you know, how did they ever get any more land than they already had, you know, had at the beginning? It was so small. Well, they had other foreign armies that were coming in and helping them out. "Oh, well, we'll help you, you know, protect yourselves here and stretch your land out." And before you know it, they're bombing these guys and bombing all around them and just taking a little more. "Oh, okay, well, this is our area now," you know? And before you know it, now it's switched around. Now Palestinians are all the ones in tiny little areas that are all fucking fenced off, and the rest of the land is all open. And every Jewish person in the entire world is allowed to go to Israel and fucking get a chunk of land or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, whatever they're offering right now. But like, it's different. But like, I think you're allowed to just go over there and just fucking claim a spot.
Yeah.
That's how it works. And that's why, you know, when it's someone else's house, then it comes down to you have to call the police, right? And so, well, okay, well, let's call the police about it, right? And then the IDF shows up, the Israel police, and like, "What's the problem here?" "Well, these people are trying to steal my house." He's like, "Well, I'm Jewish here. This is going to be my house." I'm like, "Well, sounds like he's got a good point there."
Yeah.
You know, "You guys better get out of here." And you're like, "What are you talking about? It's my house. Like, it's been our family's land for like fucking 100 years. Like,
Yeah. lady on the news, her family's from Iran, and they were originally from Canada, and they scrimped and saved, tried real hard over here to buy that house, and they just packed up and left. And they're like driving on a packed highway, going, fuck.
Yeah.
Just fuck, man. Those people I feel for, like that was their retirement home.
Yeah.
They left Iran because the economics weren't good, or they had an opportunity in Canada. They put their nose to the stone. They made their money here. Cool. I respect the shit out of that. And then they took their money. They went back home to retire there. But in there is a bit of a problem too. You're leaving to make your money to come back, and yeah, they might. It's a little bit of a sign. I heard of Africa producing the African graveyards and nothing else. And this was a quote that came from Putin originally. The only thing Africa produces is graveyards. And the reason for that being, any African child that grows up will go to school in another country to get a better education. Will vacation in other places. Will, buy from China. Will do everything. But the only thing African they will do is die and get buried. So Africa is really only producing graveyards.
Yeah.
Like, that's a hell of a point. That's a hell of a point.
Yeah. Certain areas, for
Mhm.
sure. Like the really forest areas of Africa.
Yeah.
Countries in Africa.
Any of the aid or the money that's coming in is being absorbed by drug lords, we're told.
Yeah. I always feel bad about that because, like, I don't know. When I was young, like, I think we talked about this last time, but like, UNICEF and stuff. I was collecting fucking pennies for UNICEF at Halloween and shit like that. But now I can't give money to fucking charities because it's like, like for every $1 that you give them, only 10 cents of that is fucking going to the kids if you're lucky.
Yeah.
Right? And the other 90% is so that the fucking CEO can have his nice fucking position and, shake hands at all the benefits and do all that kind of stuff, right?
What if the CEO of UNICEF is Jewish and he gave the money to the war effort, and to him, to his perspective, it's still charity?
Yeah. It's just a different avenue, right?
Right? Then you'd have to see the ledger numbers, like how much was given to that war effort by UNICEF. Said, we want to help out for the war, and then we automatically think it's for after the war.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't know for real, for facts. It could have been to buy bombs.
Yeah. See, but it's the chain of command. It's somewhere in there. Like, it's not that UNICEF, like, we're just using that as an example. Not that it necessarily be actual proof, but companies like UNICEF, let's say, they might have somebody at the top who's CEO or whatever, and he kind of knows what's happening, but he's kind of supposed to be the face, so he would kind of know, okay, we got some illegal shit going on, but I don't know the details of it. I just know that some shit's going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I remember watching this documentary of basically it was about this poor, I forget what country it was, but it's really, really like the poorest nation in Africa, like where the kids were like huffing plastic all day long like burning plastic on open fires and huffing it just because that was their only escape. Because they're like, we're starving, we're so hungry, and like you feel really good when you just huffing the plastic.
Yeah.
And these poor kids. But this guy, one of the kids interviews, like he was this kid in this little village, like interviewing all these people about what it's like to be so poor and everything. And then he interviewed these guys who were kind of the rich people who were basically Russians that were pilots and working for pilots, like working with aviation. And they would come there and they were flying all the aid and stuff, dropping it off and all that kind of stuff, right? Because they got all kinds of aid coming in and out. But so he's interviewing this Russian pilot, and this guy basically on camera explains the whole trade. So he's like, basically what happens is, like say a plane for UNICEF, it's got all the supplies and everything on it, right? It's supposed to fly to, say, Zimbabwe or something, right? And that's what officially is on the books. But the Russian pilot or whoever's flying it does a stop off in Russia. And they stop off, and it's an unscheduled off the books stop, but they stop over there. And he's like, literally, I'm a cog in the machine. He's like, I pull the plane in, all these guys come on, they bring in all these crates, and he's like, and then I fly them there. And he's like, if I drop off my cargo and it looks like I've at all looked inside those crates, then I'm probably going to get shot.
I believe it.
Yeah. So he's like, he's like, they bring that stuff on. I stay in the cockpit. I drive there. I don't even look at what's in the back. And he's like, when I have had to go back there or whatever, all I can see is that I've got a couple extra crates going in the back. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So that's how this kind of stuff kind of gets through the cog, like through the wheels or whatever, falls through the cracks. It's kind of a glimpse at the way that this whole system rolls. Because you got to be wondering, like, oh, well, how do these people do this? It's not like the guy who's running this charity is this evil fucking bad guy, like you kind of have it in your head that he's this evil bad guy, but like really it's more that he's just a fucking asshole who kind of, he's that guy that like the mafia would hire to run a business, and be like, hey, we're going to be running shit under here, usually the face of the business, you know what I mean?
Yeah, like do you remember that what was that called? Invisible Children?
No.
Out of Africa?
No.
It was a charity, and this guy was going around showing, like interviewing kids, and there was the one kid he took an extra liking to for the documentary for the extra soft music. Oh my God, this is my boy Jeffrey. And the owner of that charity was famous for a little bit, and he went bonkers. He was caught running through the city naked, like speaking incoherently. I think he's still institutionalized.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder if someone got to him. Hey, like, did he have a history of mental illness, or he's just one of those people that just like, oh, he's fine, and then he had a psychotic break apparently, like maybe he knew too much and like we got to get rid of him.
Psychotic break because he's up to no good.
Yeah.
You say, okay, it's charity in quotations, but he's still writing stuff off so he can have dinners with his family and shit like that, right? There's still that side of it, and that Jeffrey kid is still in Africa, hungry.
Right.
I've always seen that as bullshit. And then I hear he had a psychotic break. Oh, big surprise,
Yeah.
Like, confirm that conspiracy. I don't want that conspiracy to be true. I want that charity money to go exactly where it's got to go.
Yeah,
You know?
I know. I always think, it would almost be better. Like if you're a rich guy, instead of starting a charity, you hire one guy and you're like, okay, I'll pay you, 100,000 a year or some reasonable amount, right? And you're running the charity. And then, you as your one guy, I mean, go over to X country or whatever, and then, bring a plane load of fucking supplies. It's packed to the fucking brim full of shit, and then go over there and hire local people, right?
Yeah.
And if you're going to build a church, hire a bunch of local contractors to do it instead of fucking missionaries over there.
How my skill set is completely somewhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You want to hear more of this?
Yeah. Well, let's hear more of that clip.
Then we can. I had this one spot I want to see if I can get to. Oh yeah, before I forget, there was you had mentioned, or you played that clip earlier from Netanyahu, right?
Yeah,
where he was saying, we will free Iran, right?
Yeah.
There's this clip of Bush basically saying the exact same thing. He's saying, like the original Bush, not Junior. But it was during the Iraq War, and he said he's doing this press conference, and he says, "Our goal is not the destruction of Iraq; it's the liberation of Kuwait."
Yeah.
And then shows a clip literally of Bush Jr. doing the same thing. He's like, "Our goal is to not to rule over these people, but to free them," and he's talking about fucking going to Afghanistan right after 9/11,
So long as we please the lizard people.
Yeah. That's just they're repeating the same script. Like they don't even rewrite the scripts. They're just saying the same things like years later, right? I bet Kamala will use something similar.
Yeah.
In violation of international law, Israel also secretly developed over 100 nuclear weapons of mass destruction capable of vaporizing the entire Middle East.
Like, how can they have 100?
Defenseless against Israel's U.S.-backed military and media campaign, the Palestinian Muslims fought back with sticks and stones and suicide as their only means of defense against the wholesale theft of their ancient homeland.
And then, I mean, look at you. This is something like
the story of the Bible was written by
all these people. That's the thing. Like every time we kill, a family, that child that's left. They show a clip at one point. I think it was from Afghanistan of Americans bombing Afghanis, but the kids are just yelling, and they're it's all translated, and it's like, "Why have you done this to us? You've destroyed our land. Death to America." Death to America, and it's like these like 10-year-old kids, and this would have been in like the 90s. So now those kids are like fucking 30 and 40. Like how long have they had that mentality growing up? You killed my fucking family.
Now they're
like,
fighting.
All I care about is fucking your country going down.
Yeah.
It's like we've been building this for years with like how many different countries just fucking hate America.
Yeah.
From all the shit they've done and us by association.
Yeah, by proxy.
Well, prophecy predicts that they will one day rule the world from their temple throne in Jerusalem, and that the world King of Kings will be a descendant of King David and King Solomon of Israel. That is what Bible believers all over the world believe will come to pass.
So it's like over 2 billion people.
It would also
who's ready to fake that DNA would have to be.
Since Israel is surrounded by not so friendly Muslim nations, and with millions of Muslim Palestinians living in Israel's West Bank and Gaza Strip, this Bible prophecy is impossible to fulfill. Or is it? Like a screenplay for a movie, the Bible story was written by Hebrew Jews. But who is the director and the producer? Is it God? Or is it a special interest group of the world's wealthiest men?
Well, according to us, it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. Always bankers. It always comes back to the bankers.
The Rothschilds, whose French companies had helped finance Hitler and the Jewish slave labor camp, had turned Jewish Holocaust victims into victimizers.
It's almost like Stockholm syndrome.
Nancy.
Percent of the land of
Look at
Israel. Even the
That's the original symbol, like from the 1500s or something, of the Rothschild family. And then this is the flag of Israel.
Huh.
The Rothschild means red shield. So that was like the red star was there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonder what blue one means.
Israel flies
Yeah.
the
You know what? It's got
symbol.
I think they bring it up at some point, but I know blue, it's very significant, but I'm forgetting what the reason is now.
So similar to the Greek one.
Yeah, but I know even just color-wise, red, white, and blue are the colors of the three tribes of Egypt or something, like from back in Pharaoh, like the original first temple days, basically.
Yeah.
And then also that, that's America's colors, right? That's their flag. And then if you look at the original sails, when I was pointing those pictures of the sails from, it showed like the old pictures of Israel or whatever.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so like that's, if you look at it, the flags of the Viking ships are striped red and white. Or you turn it sideways, that's the fucking American flag, just with the stars.
Yeah,
that's
weird.
Yeah, it's the exact same fucking thing. So the Viking flags are the American flag, just turned sideways.
Yeah.
Minus the stars.
Child family's red shield. The hexagram.
There's the seal and the American seal too.
The numbers 666 are associated with the biblical prophecies that predict an apocalyptic Third World War. In their national bestseller, Secret War Against the Jews, authors Loftus and Ahrens reveal indisputable evidence that Hitler's top Nazi general, General Reinhard Gehlen, transferred his entire network of Nazi spies and double agents to Fort Hunt, Virginia, to join America's newly formed CIA. This highly secretive operation was codenamed Operation Paperclip and included Holocaust mastermind Otto Skorzeny, Hitler's personal friend and favorite SS colonel.
All those dueling scars.
Nelson Rockefeller, who became U.S. Vice President, and Alan Dulles, who became CIA Director, erased the Nazi past of hundreds of Nazi spies and scientists who they smuggled into the United States.
Classic.
Others
Intern
were smuggled
for
into Canada and South
information.
America along Rockefeller's rat line, using Vatican passports and money. Rockefeller was also guilty of supplying South American oil to
Skull and
Nazi
crossbones.
subs that sunk. The Jewish Zionists spied on Rockefeller's treasonous activities and then blackmailed him. In exchange for Jewish silence, Rockefeller agreed to arrange for enough votes from a Latin American nation to guarantee Israel's membership into the United Nations. The sad truth, say Loftus and Ahrens, is that the Jewish Zionists bought those extra votes with the blood of millions of Jewish Holocaust victims. Christopher Simpson's book called Blowback exposes recently declassified information on America's recruitment of Nazi war criminals into the CIA.
Wow.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping they go more into the bit about Palestine originally, but you know what? I think there was more. Wait, that might be in there. There was this bit right at the beginning that focused right on like how we were talking about, like right at how it switched
Declared its independence
when
from Great Britain.
Rome took it over.
Three city-states. At the center of each city-state is a towering, phallic-shaped stone monument called an obelisk that points
Yeah.
In D.C. city-state, the obelisk, known as the Washington Monument, was dedicated to Freemason George Washington by the Freemason Grand Lodge of the District of Columbia. The secretive Brotherhood of Freemasons laid the Washington obelisk cornerstone in 1848 and contributed 22 Masonic memorial stones. 250 Masonic lodges financed the Washington Monument obelisk, including the Knights Templar Masonic Order. At the heart of London city-state is a 187-ton, 69-foot-tall Egyptian obelisk called Cleopatra's Needle. It was transported from Egypt and erected on the bank of the River Thames.
Why do they have I've seen this one in Vatican City.
High above
Yeah.
St. Peter's Square.
But why are they so obsessed with Romans?
Yeah.
Even all the architecture, when they're building back when all the colonies were starting, when they're building their city halls and their big churches, like the Mormon church and stuff, it's all Roman architecture.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just the influence or if it's they need there's something hidden there, right? That's why it's all connected.
Yeah. It might be. So quite truthfully, I'm losing quite a bit of steam here on this topic. This would segue into on the next episode. I want to do that Montreal Mental Hospital, the Allen that connects with the CIA.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we're playing kind of segues into it quite nicely.
Yeah, there's a chunk there where they talk about the whole 60s movement, and then Allen Ginsberg and fucking Timothy Leary, and how they got 100 million doses of fucking LSD. 100 million doses that were given to them by the CIA.
Yeah, in Vaseline containers.
Yeah, you were saying hide it in Vaseline containers. That's wild.
Yeah.
Just dropping it off to people, hey?
Yeah.
That would have been wild time.
Yeah. Well, anyways, so let's talk about that one on the next episode.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you everyone for joining.
Yeah.
And I'll catch you next time.